opinions and questions, if you may, on the platform as well. But remember, for every comment you put out there, remember to add the hashtag TV3 New Day. And as you're watching us, as usual, we're very generous on this show. We're not only generous with information, we're generous with the cash that we give out as well. And so make sure to play cash out, *439# and select option 2. You have to be a Telecel subscriber or an MTN subscriber. And so dial *439#, play as many times as you can, because by the end of today, 3 of you would have received 1,000 Ghana cedis each. You're not sharing the 1,000 Ghana cedis. It's actually 3,000 Ghana cedis, and 3 of you will have to share that 3,000 Ghana cedis, 1,000 per person. And it goes straight into your Momo account or your Telecel account the moment your number pops up on the screen, and it's randomly selected by our machine. And so we're not cheating. There's no way we'll know who is winning, but you just have to increase your chances of winning by playing as many times as possible. Now, this morning, we're looking at some very, very critical topics. And the first one, of course, yesterday, we had that breaking news where the appeals court, made up of 3 judges, had ruled on an issue regarding the ambulance trial case that's been running since 2021. Now, 2 of the judges out of the 3 ruled that, you know, the ruling that was done earlier by the trial judge concerning the fact that Kaisel Atuforsin, the minority leader, needed to go ahead and open his case to adduce further particulars and evidence to support his case. Well, the 2 judges said that was wrong in the first place. There was no need to have even allowed him to go ahead to open his case, even though there was one other judge who dissented on this opinion. And so we're going to get into it because the Attorney General has also been speaking on this matter. And when we do have time, of course, another very important conversation that we need to have is the passage of the Affirmative Action Bill on the floor of Parliament yesterday after many years. This is certainly good news, especially for the women in the country, and so we will get into that. But very shortly, I'll introduce you to my guest. But let's get into our first story for today. And we will go to the floor of Parliament to get a view or a sense of how the minority members of Parliament jubilated yesterday after that ruling from the appeals court. Now, this appeal, by the way, had been filed as far back as 2023. And this was actually on the 14th of April, 2023. This was, just a few months after the trial had started, or about a year after the trial had started. And the trial judge had insisted, even though, the counsel for the accused persons had filed a no-case trial because they didn't see why there was a need to proceed to open their case, especially when they felt the prosecutors did not adduce enough evidence to support his case. And so they were hoping that the judge was not going to let them open their case, but the judge, in fact, ruled against them and said she wanted to hear more from the accused persons. They should also open their case, bring in the evidence, and bring people to support their evidence. So that appeal was filed at the appeal court. And that is what we heard of yesterday with the final ruling. So let's quickly take a look at how the floor of Parliament received this news. And then I'll give you details as to exactly what the Attorney General has said on this matter.
By a 2-1 decision, the Court of Appeal upheld that the decision by the High Court for him to proceed with a submission of his case had no legal basis, and therefore did not only discharge him, but acquitted him. That is what we are celebrating, and he's invited to celebrate us. Now, Mr. Speaker, I hear the Attorney General, even instead of swallowing his humble pride, is saying that he wants to litigate on this matter. Mr. Speaker, we assure him that he will be further disgraced because this matter, if you want to try people, try them on matters which are legally meritorious. Letters of credit. And mere guarantees. I can go into the matter. This is parliamentary chamber. So, Mr. Speaker, the minority here is celebrating the independent, courageous decision of the Court of Appeal.
Speaker, it must never be said, that the judiciary is under the control of the executive. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Harun Edrisu is a courtroom practitioner, just as I am. You were a courtroom practitioner. One of the things that we were taught at the bar was to accept the decisions of the court. And when we are not happy, we should go up. And that is how we enrich the law. So I think that in his celebration, he shouldn't use this as a forum to attack the Attorney General, who has no right of audience here. I celebrate in your victory. And you know how much it means to democracy in this country. Minority leader on trial, you've gone through the system, your belief in the judiciary system. Today, on all fours, I don't take alcohol, but I can offer you a non-alcoholic wine. I know Ati doesn't take alcohol either. Anytime we go for lunch, it is fruit juice. So I will offer him fruit juice. But I would want my brother Ato and all colleagues to know that judiciary and their independence must be respected.
I keep forgetting here. All right, and so you heard from the former minority leader on the floor of Parliament, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, speaking, and of course, excited about the fact that the judiciary had ruled fairly from what he said. But the majority leader didn't think that that was a fair statement to make, especially because the minority over some few weeks, or in fact, over the years, has trumpeted the lack of independence of the judiciary. But let's take a look at exactly what the Attorney General had to say about this matter. And yesterday, a press release was put out almost immediately after the ruling. I'll just go to the second paragraph, and it says that the Office of the Attorney General considers the decision of the Court of Appeal to be perverse in the quest for public accountability and rule of law. That decision clearly is heavily against the weight of the cogent evidence led by the prosecution in substantiation of all the charges against the accused persons at the trial. You go to the final paragraph and it says again that the Office of the Attorney General considers the decision of the Court of Appeal grossly unfair to the nation and inimical to the fight against impunity and abuse in public office. The office will promptly file an appeal in order to raise the effect of this erroneous decision of the Court of Appeal. Mr. Richard Jakpa is the third accused person in this case, and yesterday he also walked out a free man, and this is what he had to say in response to this statement from the Office of the Attorney General.
That the Lord has made, I must rejoice in it. My enemies and detractors have been put to shame. I'll be vindicated. I'm a happy man. I'm a free man. All those allegations that they level against me, trying to dent my integrity because of the conduct of the crooked Attorney General of February. It hasn't worked. We still have judges of integrity in this country that we uphold fidelity to the law. So it's a good news. Attorney General, you can go to the Supreme Court, and even after the Supreme Court ruling, you can still go for review if you so pleases. It's a legal process. And I'm a combatant, I'm a warrior, I'm ready for every battle. So if you want to go to the Supreme Court...
Well, you've heard from Warrior Jakpa there. He says he's a warrior and he's ready for every battle. But in the studio this morning, I have the senior communicator for Movements for Change. I'm not spotting anything yellow on him because in the last couple of weeks, we've seen everybody represents the movement spotting some yellow somewhere. But anyway, Mr. Solomon Owusu is here. You're already getting fans on Facebook.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're excited that you're joining us on the show today. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Let me say that I didn't bring my yellow because your studio is already yellow. So that would be conflicting of colors.
I see.
Yeah, so you are already representing the movement.
No, we're not representing the movement. We are not representing the movement. We've had this yellow since I was in class.
So we are with you.
You are joining us?
Yeah, you are joining you.
I see. But how are you doing, by the way?
Oh, by His grace, we are doing very well. Okay. Doing very well.
All right. We thank God. But also joining us, and he's in white. He says that it's just, coincidence, by the way. Honorable Alasan Shaibu Suini is here. He's the MP for Tamale North constituency. Good morning.
Good morning,
How are you
Bella.
doing?
I'm terrific. Hope you are well, too.
Oh, I'm well. I saw you putting the white cloth around the majority leader's neck. Why are you bringing the man like that?
Well,
to accept this victory of yours?
So he wanted to know why the minority, inshallah, soon to be majority in Parliament, had white armbands on yesterday, and some of us in white. And so the former minority leader had to explain to him why we had the white bands on. And I think that he was just being pretentious about it because he knew why we were in white armbands. And in the process, in the process of educating him on why we were in white armbands and some in white, we invited him to join in the celebration.
Did he join?
Well, since he didn't reject my offer of the white calico, I take it that he joined us in the celebration. But he had a few words about judicial independence.
We'll get to that.
And I think that one ruling, in this case, the victory of Partisan and Japa, and we'll get into that, does not represent or does not negate, it does not necessarily negate the views that people have had about the judiciary. And maybe when we begin...
Yes, when we get there, we'll get into it. But we're also expecting Justice Abdullahi, he's a law lecturer at the UPSA, to also join us via Zoom shortly. But Solomon, I'll start off with you, and I want to get your general opinion on this matter. Yesterday, when you heard that the appeal court had also put out this case and declared the 2 men free men, what did you make of it?
Yes, thank you very much. Let me say that the appeals court of the land rather saved they saved the country Ghana from further embarrassment. I say so because if you are a businessman and you are conversant with international trade, the sort of prosecution that was going on should never have occurred in the first place. I mean, those that were being targeted. And here, I mean, the minority leader and Japa should never have been targeted. At worst, they should have been prosecution witness. They had nothing to do with prosecution, if you understand how letter of credit operates. And so I felt so embarrassed that as a whole country, we would go on that tangent. First of all, what were we discussing? We are told that somewhere in 2009, Professor Mills, through his State of the Nation's address, gave the indication that the country needed ambulances, and so we needed to fix it. We are told that based on that pronouncement, a businessman puts up a proposal and sends it to the Ministry of Health that he and his company were in a position to offer these ambulances. We are told that subsequently, Cabinet gave approval somewhere in 2011 for the purchase of these ambulances. We are also told again that somewhere in December, on the 1st of November 2012, Parliament gave approval for the transaction. And subsequent to that, an agreement was signed on the 19th of December 2012 between the Ministry of Health, emphasis mine, and the suppliers. Here we are talking about the Big C for the transaction to go on. In that agreement, we were told that within 120 days, the first 25 consignments were to be supplied. Yeah. So if you calculate 120 days from that 19th of December 2024, it means the first 25 should have arrived on latest 19th of April 2013. The country did not honor its obligation. So even Big C right there could have taken action. And that is how come in 2014, if you read the chronology of events, lawyers of Big C wrote to the Attorney General that if you do not act, we would, as it were, sue you for judgment debt. So they needed to rush and go in for. Now, I gave you this background to let you understand why the Attorney General has done a great disservice to this country. Yes, I agree that what happened was needless. Something wrong happened in terms of the sort of ambulances that were procured. Nobody should run away from that we did not procure the right set of ambulances for the purpose that we intended to use it for.
You're saying that we shouldn't say that?
No, we should say that.
Okay.
I mean, that one is a fact.
It's a fact, okay, because even the Minister of Health then had also indicated.
It's a fact, and that is why I'm so, it gives me the indication that this is political persecution. Because if you really wanted to deal with the issues, the agreement was signed between the Ministry of Health and Big C. So the institution that should have been held liable for this whole prosecution was the Ministry of Health.
Okay.
And not any other person. Because this is how LCs operate. Bella, you are selling your product. You are in Dubai. I am in Ghana. And LCs came into being because of the very reason they were in court to deal with anomalies or discrepancies. So you are selling ambulance. You are in Dubai. I am in Ghana. I'm afraid that when I send you my money and I say I'm looking for a white Mercedes-Benz as ambulance, after taking my money, you may bring me black. And so in order to guarantee that when you bring me white ambulance Mercedes with maybe leather chairs, you would deliver the very thing that I'm expecting, I will do an LC for it. LC is not a payment. It's a guarantee that could be redeemed as payment based on fulfilling conditions.
Shouldn't the Attorney General have known this?
That's why it's a political persecution. If he doesn't know that, it's dangerous for the people of this country.
But you heard the tape where he went back and forth with Richard Jakpa, and Richard Jakpa was the one that was now breaking it out to him
want to assume
what the LC actually meant.
I heard him, and I have a lot of friends. Fortunately, I'm a businessman. The sort of embarrassment that this whole thing has brought to business community in Ghana, he has no idea that if your Attorney General is struggling to understand these fundamentals in international trade, then Christ save us. But I want to believe he understands it, or he understood the principle, but he was just playing the devil's advocate just to get Jakpa on his side. Look, the LC was established, and here again for public officials going forward, maybe we shouldn't have done site LC, which was not good in this case, but they did LC. The essence of that was that before shipment is done, the buying institution, which is the Ministry of Health, should have gone to inspect.
Which they failed to do.
Which they failed to. And subsequent to that, they okayed, because when goods are delivered or when bill of ladings are given, the banks will call you, the buying institution, to go through to see whether or not everything that is captured in there is what you agreed with the supplier. The Ministry of Health okayed it and said everything was right.
They didn't say everything was right. In fact, if you read the verdict here, it says that, so a post-delivery inspection of the first batch of 10 ambulances revealed various fundamental effects, rendering them unworthy. And the defects were brought to the attention of Big C. And this letter was dated 11th February 2015. And so the Ministry of Health did not...
That was the initial response. They are not telling you the other one. Initially, they raised discrepancies in it, so payment didn't go. Subsequently, the ministry okayed it. Either than that, the bank would never have paid. Because whatever the Bank of Ghana did, or the payment that the Bank of Ghana did, was on the instructions of the Ministry of Health. So if there is prosecution to the effect that goods that were supplied were not what was agreed in the sales and purchase agreement, which was captured in the LC, then whom do you blame? Is it the ministry that said, go ahead and pay?
So let me put this out there so that we can correct this just briefly. So Big C acknowledged the defects of the vehicle in a letter dated 19 February 2015, but indicated that the defects could have been avoided if officials of the Ministry of Health had conducted a pre-shipment inspection. Now, they further indicated that the company proceeded to ship the vehicles upon receiving the LCs on the 18th of August 2014. But they also indicated that the second consignment of 10 vehicles with the same defects had been shipped 51 days before the date of the letter
because they were,
from the ministry. So the ministry was late in telling them.
Because if you had done the first inspection, you would have identified all these problems. Once you did not do the inspection, they thought everything was right. So they were shipping. And if you want to prosecute someone in this circumstance, who then do you prosecute? You prosecute the one that said everything was all right for the bank to pay, or the one that just requested the Bank of Ghana to do the LC. So Atofose had no business whatsoever. And I was waiting for the kind of ruling that the High Court would have given for us to put certain issues in right perspective. Because you see, beyond this case, there are a lot of businessmen and women suffering in our bank, in our courts on international trade. I think the courts must take this opportunity to also equip the judges and also the lawyers we have in this country so that they become conversant with international trade. Now, it was purely political persecution. Beyond this, we have gone through it. You are prosecuting people. Then, one of the accused comes and says that, look, I'm ready to pay 2 million euros so that all these cases dropped. What did our Attorney General say? He rejected it.
And yesterday he spoke on it. He said that he rejected it because they insisted that if they bring the money, then the case must be dropped. And
but
for
why
him,
not?
he didn't see why the case needed to be dropped.
So,
that's because, again, if you've caused financial loss to the state, he doesn't see why the state should take that money and let you go.
So between the Attorney General and Japan, who has caused financial loss to the state?
Who do you think it is?
The Attorney General must be immediately sued, or he must resign from the position so that this country will have its peace. Someone was ready to give you €2 million and ready to take their ambulances back. You claim they had caused financial loss to the state. Now we have lost that 2 million. Now they have been acquitted. So who has actually caused financial loss?
So he should resign. Okay, well, hold on to that. And good morning, Money. I see your messages. Good morning also to Desiree Mervyn Chelsea. And a few messages coming in. Money says, ask Solo if he had not joined Butterfans, will he be saying Atu is innocent? And Mensam agreed from Beche. My regards to Honorable Charles Akwesi Asiedu. Okay, we hear you. Let me just go to Alaji, because, again, the concern now is the Attorney General describes this ruling as perverse, and he wants to go and file an appeal at the Supreme Court. What's your response to that?
Well, Bella, let me say good morning, because we didn't start on that note to you and then
apologies.
to Solo and
Yes.
also to our viewers, especially the very good people of the Tamale North constituency. And let me rephrase your question by just introducing the disgrace dummy. That should be, I think...
You want to refer to him as that?
I want to, yes. I want
Why?
to rephrase it as that. Because, you know, this case was not just lost, but his integrity in the process has also been lost. And if I were in his shoes, I'll be speaking very little at this point. Because he has not only disgraced himself, he's disgraced the office of the Attorney General. And in not so exact words, I think even the judge that was presiding over this case made that point clear. When at a point, she asked him to recuse himself.
Does that equate to disgrace?
I said not in exact words. Okay. In my view, I think that
which is why I'm
it amounts to how the judge felt that he, dummy, still continuing with that case was untenable, given the revelations that we all listened to on tape. And so he has not just lost this case, but he's lost his credibility, he's lost his integrity, and if I were in his shoes, I will be speaking very little at this point. I, however, want to congratulate, Honorable Arthur Forson, the minority leader, and Mr. Japa, and especially the legal team that represented them in court. And I think that they always believed in their innocence, and with God on their side, they have been able to prove their innocence, and at the end of the day, they are vindicated. I also think that it is important that we congratulate the judges as well, especially the two who stood out and decided to uphold, the rule of law in this process. But I hasten to add that this ruling on its own does not negate the strong views and concerns people have expressed about the lack of judicial independence that we seem to be feeling around the country. This one ruling does not negate that, even though it is a commendable ruling. But like they say, one leaf does not make a summer. It's too little. And it is not just us saying it because we are in opposition. In fact, this week, I came across a report that talked about how the judiciary, especially in Africa, seem to be coming so much under executive control and losing the independence that is required of it. So it is not just a notion held by people or parties in opposition, and in our case, the NDC. It is a general feeling, and perhaps you can say that it's not just limited to Ghana, but the point has to be made that there is a reason why the judiciary is clothed with the powers and conditions of service that it is clothed with. And the expectation is that with that authority and independence that they are guaranteed under our constitutions, they will exhibit, or conduct themselves in ways that will not make us feel that those things amount to nothing. They must show more of, yes, more of that.
But from yesterday's ruling, does it then not indicate that the judiciary is indeed independent?
No, it doesn't. Like I am saying, that singular case, it's not enough to wipe
away
the general perception that it has been under executive control for some time now. We need to see a certain level of consistency. And that is where perhaps we'll get to a point where we will begin to say that, yes, our judiciary is now becoming independent. But commendable as this ruling is not enough to wipe away those general concerns. So that is the first point that I want to make on this matter. The second issue has to do with even the details of this case. It has to do with even the details of this case. Like Solo said, I mean, it was a case that should not have even gone to court at all. It was a political persecution, a classical case of political persecution. Even before we heard what was contained in the tape, Solo is explaining to us, and anybody related to business whatsoever who knows how LCs operate could have even told you before listening to the tape that this was a classical case of political persecution. The tape only came to confirm our fears, where you had the Attorney General coaching one of the parties involved to help them, jail the minority leader so they could make a political point and they could get political advantage over their opponents in Parliament. And so it is just one embarrassing case that I think that it should be taught in law school. And lawyers, or to be lawyers, must learn about how not to go to court on issues such as this.
But they say they had a case, which is why even the trial judge had allowed or had instructed that the case be open for even the accused person so they can also bring in their defense.
But if you listen to the ruling, I mean, it's a 125-page ruling. I haven't finished reading it, but if you look at it closely, they criticize that. Yeah,
but they're saying that if the trial judge had also been on this panel, then it probably would have been a totally different ruling.
They criticize that decision, and that is why they are saying that there's no case for Honorable Atuforsen to answer, because if you look at the evidence that has been presented, there's no case at all for him to answer. But you see, let us not lose sight of the fact that this case involves the retooling of our ambulance service in Ghana. We still have issues with how patients are transported from their place of residence to our various health centers. Some are still transported in taxis. In fact, when I was coming this morning, I had a taxi honking in traffic, trying to clear the way. And when I looked in, I saw that someone was lying down, probably a patient. So we still have that issue. So this case is about how we attempted once upon a time to resolve such a situation. Now, as we speak, no one has denied that the ambulances or the vehicles that were supposed to be used for the ambulances are in town. 8 years on, do you know what happens to vehicles when you park them for 8 years? 8 years on, those vehicles have not moved. They have been left at the vagaries of the weather. Now, the initial complaint was that those vehicles were not suitable to be used as ambulances and that it needed certain fittings. The response was that those fittings, and I'm making it as basic as possible, the response was that those fittings had also been imported and are at the ports awaiting clearance. No one has denied that. So as we speak about whether Dami is disgraced, whether Atuforsen deserves congratulation, whether Jakpa did the right thing, ambulances that would have saved lives are packed and wasting away. The equipment and tools that were required to make those ambulances effective or useful are at the ports, also wasting away. Now, in the process, like Solo said, the business people trying to avoid this needless trial so that perhaps they could save their business and continue to do business, said, okay, if you do not want the vehicles, if you do not want the spare parts, the cost is 2 million euro. We are ready to give you the money and we will take our materials. You said no. A vindictive, disgraced Attorney General said no to that offer and went on with this political persecution. So in this case, we the citizens who require the services of these ambulances have lost that opportunity to have the problem resolved and our needs catered for. Just because somebody is interested in pursuing a political agenda. But guess what? On the flip side, you have that same government award a contract to familiar relations to bring in ambulances. In fact, the daughter of the president or people related to her to bring in ambulances at a cost that the Auditor General appointed by that same government has said is inflated.
Okay.
I'm not done.
No.
In this case,
I need
you
to
have
wrap up on this so that I can bring in our next guest.
But please, I'm saying that on the flip side, let's not forget that. On the flip side, whilst this engagement has led to us losing the services of these ambulances that have been brought and left to the vagaries of the weather, and then the spare parts left at the ports, you have that same government that says they are seeking to find justice for us, justice for wrong that we are not told has been committed, awarding a contract to the daughter of the president or people related to her in a deal that the Auditor General, they themselves have appointed after chasing one out, has indicated is inflated. And added on top, ICE, spare parts.
So he should be focusing on that and not this. Well, I'll let you hold on with this.
What crime did we commit to have this government upon ourselves?
Into this conversation. But before that, lawyer, let me just say good morning to Sadie John Paul. He says that I agree. The Attorney General should be sacked. As for resignation, it's honorable, and I don't think he's qualified to be an honorable man. Okay. And Mensa Magritte says that, okay, so Honorable Atuforsin has been acquitted and discharged. Godfred Dami has failed woefully, and his evil plans have been exposed by lawyer Edudi Tamaklo, Richard Jakpa, and the team. Bra Paul says the two judges must be applauded. They stood with the law, not with the Attorney General. I pray for their protection. Jetiri says that God will deal with Dami. There are more messages coming in, and if you're watching us on Facebook, drop those messages. I'll see if I can read them. But let me also just welcome our third guest for today, Justice Abdullah. He's a law lecturer at UPSA. Good morning, Justice. How are you doing?
Indeed, good morning.
Thank you.
It's been a long time.
It has been a while, but we're grateful. But I need you to sit up a bit just before you go on air. So
yes,
that,
please.
Yes, and just reposition your camera. So great. I think we're fine. Now,
better?
Yes, it's better. I'll piggyback on what Honorable Suini has just said, that, again, there are new accusations leveled against, this government with regards to the importation of some spare parts for ambulances. This and many other issues still exist that many think the Attorney General should be looking into, and yet he still insists that he's going to appeal this matter at the Supreme Court. What's going on? I mean, what are your thoughts on this?
Remember when the video and the audio issues came up, I made this position clear that it appears that the Attorney General is fighting a personal vendetta rather than fighting for the interest of the Republic, which he is supposed to represent. I do not think that the conduct of the Attorney General has changed even post the leakage of these damning audio and video of his engagement with, unprofessional engagement with Richard Jakpa. If you read the letter that he boldly signed, put his name under yesterday, it literally confirms everything, that there's much to this whole case to the Attorney General than the rest of us as members of the Republic appear to know. And it's really questionable. The words used in describing members of the Court of Appeal and the conduct, the entire wording is so problematic that you would not expect that from an Attorney General. Indeed, if this had come from an individual lawyer, I'm sure you probably would hear something different from the General Legal Counsel or from the bar or from the officers that be regards to calling the person to book and sometimes hailing before the General Legal Counsel for all kinds of disciplinary committee meetings. But essentially, I think enough should be enough on this matter. We sought for justice. The court has come up with an appeal, a decision, which essentially is that the persons you are seeking to uphold the principles of accountability, probity, and apply the strict interpretation of the rules of law has come up. The verdict has come out that they are indeed not in any way at fault, even if there's fault. In fact, that particular part of the judgment is what sweets me the most. That, yes, there is some form of causing financial loss to the state, but there are persons, if you read the judgment, persons, literally this is what the court is saying, persons who must be held responsible, but definitely not the accused persons that have been brought before court. And so this aspect of the judgment of the Court of Appeal, for me, points yet to this fact that there must be something more to the prosecution of the minority leader, Richard Drapat, than really the world, the Attorney General expects us to know. And because the persons who authorize these payments are available. It is nowhere in the evidence of the Attorney General that it was Dr. Atuforsen that authorized the payment. He's alleged to have established a LC. And unless you don't have basic principles and an understanding of how LCs operate, you may think that indeed, just by establishing an LC, some commitment, some monies have been paid or have been lost in the light of this transaction or in any other LC transaction. LC is, if for the benefit of our viewers, are established simply as a guarantee for payment. It's as simple as that. A guarantee for payment. Which
Solomon had mentioned, but just to come to you, so at this point, there are a number of people who are saying, in fact, majority of the people that you'd listen to would say that this has cast a cloud over, the office of the Attorney General. And so at this point, he should not even remain in office to even have a voice to indicate that he's going ahead to appeal. What do you say to that? Should he resign? Should the president sack him?
I think resignation would be an honorable thing. And for those making those comments, once again, I make reference to when the tapes got leaked out. These were the comments that I made, and that I think it is the most honorable thing to do. And for me, this is just a repetition of what I had said about 3 months or thereabout ago. With that, considering that misconduct that he exhibited in pursuit of what he called justice, and in the light of this decision, the decision really is not a verdict on the Attorney General's performance. Let's be clear on that.
Yeah.
This is not a verdict on the performance of the Attorney General. Lawyers lose cases and lawyers win cases. It doesn't necessarily tell on the performance or competence of the lawyer. You probably may just have a bad case, but you need to understand when you have a bad case to say, I throw in the towel, walk away, do something else. But it only gets worse in this case when you are dealing with an Attorney General who goes around insulting every judge simply by losing a case. That is, for me, a wrong move. And that is where a call for his resignation, for me, would be an appropriate thing to do considering the genesis of this matter. I mean, it appears to be the kind of case where an attorney general is uncompromising in accepting defeat, in uncompromising in his attempt to do people who, in law, in the light of the law, might have done nothing wrong, but he simply insists on getting them into the cooler for reasons that we are unable to see at this moment.
Well,
unless, of course, we glean some synopsis from what Richard Jakpa said. Perhaps it's for political reason, and maybe his dates of sentencing is still a target that he wants to achieve. But if you take out all these mischief, I think that the Attorney General
should resign.
Sacking him, I don't think the president will do that.
You don't think so?
But hear how the president has been singing his praises, I do not think that the president will.
We don't have a history of resignations under this current government, and so clearly. And I've listened to the PRO of the Office of the Attorney General, who also doesn't think that even a call for his resignation is a call in the right direction.
The point is that, Bella, even calls, dismissals is not known, at least not in this government. I know saying this will be a bit controversial because people, you may be able to point out one or two, like the Deputy Attorney General who was dismissed in the first term for calling out Nordness for obviously wrong reasons. But if you go into the history books of this government, you will notice that there has never been any circumstances for the good reasons that one could outline that somebody has been dismissed. If someone is dismissed, it's always for the wrong reason because the president probably stand up against the president. And so, but the singing of praises by the president of this Attorney General and how, in fact, is darling boy. I don't think that the president would have that courage to say, you know what, enough is enough, go away. That would never happen. And that same, the flip side of this same point is that the Attorney General would also not resign because he has the confidence of the president.
Then we have a problem.
We do have a bigger problem. Bella, I don't think you are actually seeing the size and the weight of the problem that we have in this country.
How bad is it?
Under this regime.
How bad is it? I mean, if you say that we don't see the gravity of this problem, how bad is it that the Attorney General will still remain in office even when people are asking for his resignation? So,
you see, sometimes, just as I was saying, there are times you need to understand that it gets to a point where, as an Attorney General, for instance, Bella, hardly would the state appeal a decision and the worst part is to insult the judge's sensibility, sense of, and knowledge of the law simply on the grounds of you losing a case and making the judges subjects of public ridicule just in your attempt to vindicate your perceived rightness of an issue. Now, if that is happening under this regime, which has never happened, I think that's what you need to know. It has never happened, not under any regime, not in this republic, possibly. You probably can go back into history and accuse Nkrumah for dismissing judges, for using cases and all of that. Yes, those exist in our history books. Okay. But we moved on.
All right.
We moved on.
All right.
And we have never come to this point again, not even under Jerry Rawlings, with all the faults that we attributed to him. We never had that. And all the killings that he did, even against judges. We never had any position under any regime where an Attorney General will call out judges and use unprintable words on them. And then, at the end of the day, he state that he's, on the basis of all those insults, appealing the decision. I mean, who does that?
Okay, let me bring Solomon in because I'm reading a message here. Evans Ibn Samba, he's watching live on Facebook. He says, Bella, we've been quiet all this while. I think that has given the Attorney General the temerity to think that he has something to appeal about it. If he tries disturbing Dr. Atuforsen again at the Supreme Court, we'll have the whole of Central Region. He would have the whole of Central Region to contend with. Let him know now and forever. We have not forgotten how he addressed us. Okay, but the concern, and yesterday I was speaking to a professor of economics actually, and he also said, we've been quiet. We're just too quiet when it comes to issues like this. We should have risen up a long time ago. How far do you think that citizens have to go to demand, for example, if it's right, that the Attorney General leaves office?
Bella, the thing is that you are right. We've been quiet, and not just on the Attorney General. First of all, who appoints the Attorney General? The President himself. We have been quiet on him. He has taken all of us for a ride. He doesn't respect us. Look, if you read the Article 88(2), what it tells you is that you cannot exonerate the President from this whole melee. What does it say? The Attorney General shall discharge such other duties of a legal nature as may be referred or assigned to him by the President. What shows that it's not the President who will tell him to go and do this? For you to leave the President out of this whole melee. We are also told by Jakpa that the reason why he and Atufos, in particular, were being prosecuted was the fact that he has been asked by the President and the former Finance Minister, which has not been disproved by anybody. We have not heard the President on it. Neither have we heard the former Finance Minister on this whole matter. So Ghanaians have been timid. As our nature, we always want to wait and see. We don't want to go out there. We don't want to tell the President to do what is right. And so he has also taken all of us for a ride. A President that his own 80 ministers, 80 MPs from his own party tells him that, look, your finance minister is messing all of us up. Get him out. What did he say? Or what did he do? He said, go away. You are not the President.
Is that what he said?
No,
but what the MP said, he asked for time. He wanted the budget to be passed, and then after that he'll decide. He
sacked all of them. These MPs, they were not being truthful to you. You went there to tell him that he should sack the finance minister. Wasn't not the position.
And he asked them to give him time.
What time?
For him to pass the budget.
My God.
And to complete the IMF transaction.
And
that's what the MP said.
That is why we are where we are. If those MPs had acted and insisted on our behalf, by the end of it was party. And you see, this whole ambulance case is bringing to fore why Ghanaians must begin to shift from active partisan politics into a neutral candidate, independent president. You know why? There seems to be a Waterloo when it comes to ambulances in terms of the NDC and the MPP. Here we are discussing ambulance case involving the NDC, and here we are having to deal with another pending with the MPP. So you would only need an independent candidate who would, as it were, come and stop this whole mantra of ambulance.
Before he became independent, he was part of this same government.
No, that's why
we all keep referencing that.
That's the point.
So you cannot just take him out of it and suddenly he becomes an angel.
So before anyone would go as an independent, he would belong to a faction. Let me tell you, those that formed the Roman Catholic Church belonged to a church. Those that formed the Anglican Church came from the Presbyterian Church. They came from the Catholic Church. Those that formed the Methodist Church came from the Catholic Church. Because something was not going right there, that is why you have to leave. If you talk about things that are not going right and it's not being done, you leave.
Yeah, but you leave early enough, not too late.
No,
when the damage has been done.
No, but who defines early?
Well, when the damage has been done, the issues with this part, this government started even in the first term.
The damage was not done at his ministry. Alan's ministry, as we speak, he left a good legacy.
One district, one factory did not achieve what it was meant to achieve.
He was not supposed to deal with the issue of fiscal stability of the economy. One district, one factory would have thrived on a very low interest rate. Alan was not responsible for a low interest rate. He would have thrived on a very stable currency. Alan is not the governor of Bank of Ghana. These people are the people. These people are in charge. The finance minister is in charge of your taxes. The governor of Bank of Ghana is in charge of your, as it were, currency. He is in charge of developing the framework for businesses to establish their one district, one factory. He gave it the automotive development plan that has brought in these assembly plants. So he did his bit.
He was willing to even run as flag bearer of this same party. That has caused the same problem.
That would have saved the country. He was going to
How would he have saved it? Is it not party first? Because when you listen to party faithfuls, they tell you that also party, no. So it's more about the party than even the plight of Ghanaians. I was born
into the MPP. I was there when TESCOM was formed. In fact, we were an integral members of TESCOM. Here I am saying that this is not a party for this country. You understand? So you must understand where we are coming from. We are developing as a country. We would understand ourselves going forward. I mean, many people are beginning to lose faith in these two political parties. You know why? Because day in and day out, the sort of things that are coming out, it's not pleasant to the Ghanaian. We have been led by these two parties for 32 years, Yet our economic conditions, nothing to write home about.
You should take some of the blame anyway.
We have taken it. That's why we have left.
Okay.
We have taken it and we have left. And we are looking forward, and that's why we have given you a new chapter in our lives by introducing the Great Transformational Plan that seeks to address all the fundamental problems in this country. I'm sure you have a copy.
Yes, I do have a copy.
That's the point that the Ghanaian must begin to look at, and then we move forward.
I see.
You know,
Alaji.
Bella, for a moment, I thought the discussion had changed.
It hasn't. We just had to bring that angle in. But we're still on the same Godfred Dami, Richard Jakpa, and Kizola Tufosi conversation.
So we're discussing Alan's performance in this
but that's why I'm saying that
abysmal and discredited government.
He said bring in a neutral person.
I think that the verdict is out there. I feel sorry that he allowed himself to be used the way that he was used to destroy this country, only for him to realize it belatedly. But, you know, Bella, on the subject of how the Attorney General responded to this ruling, I'm not pretty surprised because, like Justice said, he's a darling boy of the president. And the president is on record to have done a similar thing when he lost his case against Chachuchi Kata on the fast-track trial when he was Attorney General. He didn't spare the judges, you know, at the time for ruling against him. They come with this entitlement mentality, and they feel mightier sometimes than even God, and cannot imagine how anybody will disagree with their thinking. And it is the reason why many have said, and I agree with it, that the president is ruling with a palace mentality and has in time become a democratic despot. Clearly, a couple of weeks ago, or months ago, many who are silent today had words of advice for the OSP when, after losing a couple of cases, he lamented about how the judiciary, in his view, was not helping him to fight against corruption. Many of these people who spoke, and I think the Attorney General himself spoke at the time, advised him to stick to the job of prosecution and allow the determination of, you know, the solid nature of his case or otherwise to be determined by the judges. And so it is shameful the Attorney General today is using such harsh words to describe the judiciary. I'm not one who suggests that the judiciary is above criticism. I think they are not. But I agree with those who say in criticizing them, our words must be deodorized. And I think it is hypocritical for us to preach that for one officer of state, in this case the OSP, and look on whilst the Supremo, in this case the Attorney General, who is supposed to be the, you know, light of litigation, you know, to look on, and I watch him do these same things. But I'm not surprised that he's doing that, like I said, because he's taking mentorship from the president. And I agree with the sentiments around this table that he will not be sacked because the president doesn't know how to do that to his darling people, even when they are messing up his government. And so he will not be sacked. And given how he treated the advice of the judge who asked him to recuse himself from this case, I don't see him minding any of us who are calling on him to resign. Once again, he will say it's just advice. and he wouldn't take. Like he refused to take the advice of the judge to recuse himself from this case in the first place.
Citizens have the real power.
He doesn't care. Does the president care? What haven't we done in this country, you know, about things that we are not comfortable with? How many demonstrations? In fact, at best, you are sprayed with water cannons. You can ask the student lawyers.
Students, yeah.
You can ask, you know, the fix the country demonstrators. At best, that's what you get. So the citizens' power have been, you know, disrespected and disregarded under this government. And so let's spare ourselves the agony of even, you know, suggesting to the Attorney General to resign, because he's not going to do that.
We shouldn't ask for it at all.
It's not going to happen. So let's not waste our breath.
What
but
if
we
he
have
actually does?
We have the power. We have the power to make that very important change that will help rescue this country, you know, in a few months' time, in about 150 days' time or less. We'll have that power. But you see, I am particularly saddened that all of this is about how to improve healthcare and how we are missing that opportunity, and in the process, rather creating financial loss to the state. And in this case...
Which your party has played a role in, and you need to acknowledge that.
How?
Well, because these ambulances came in, and we all realized that it had defects. Your then Minister of Health at that time even came out and indicated that truly those ambulances had those defects. They did not check before these ambulances were brought in. And so right from jump, your party as well is also equally guilty in causing financial loss to the state.
Bella, you see, let's get the issue straight. The party NDC awarded the contract for these ambulances to be brought. It was not the responsibility of the party or the government at that point to bring in ambulances that were not defective. Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. Had to check.
Please, but I'm going there. Bella, just wait a minute. It was due to that check that it was determined to be defective. And based on that, payments were withheld. And the contractor, in this case, the one bringing it, was instructed to do the right thing.
But the Ministry of Health needed to check before those ambulances came into the country. Clearly, from that statement, you can see, and I have
Bella,
it here.
Bella, you see, if I give you a job, if I give you a job to do, yes, I may want to come and see if you are doing it well. But if I trust in your competence, I'll wait for you to deliver the job. If I'm not satisfied, I tell you I'm not satisfied, do it better.
Per the agreement, what did they say? That the Ministry of Health needed to check. Yes. And when you see even that letter that was written by Big C, they said that you cannot blame us because your ministry failed to do its job.
I understand that.
And
but
even at the time when they came to even tell us that these ambulances had defects, we had already shipped another batch of 10.
You see, we are measuring...
So what was done to whoever was supposed to have made sure that these ambulances that were coming into the country had the full spec? Was anything done to that person? No.
You are making us measure in minor things.
How
is that? And then minoring in major things.
How is that?
The point is that something went wrong. The NDC government was in the process of fixing that so that the people of Ghana will benefit. Now, that has not been fixed by this government. All it has been interested in is just jailing somebody for political points. And that leaves the people of Ghana still without ambulances. That's the point I'm making.
Which is
it doesn't matter.
I'm asking, do you acknowledge then that you also got it wrong?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That is measuring in minor and an attempt to seem like we are impartial. But that is not important here.
How is it not important?
You see, what is important here is what was this supposed to achieve? It was to bring ambulances to help the people of Ghana. In the process, the one government detected that the ambulances were below standard and insisted that it be brought up to standard so that the people will benefit. That was the focus. That is a government that is concerning itself with ensuring that the right thing is done. Now, the second government is only interested in jailing somebody for political points. They are not even minded to ensure that the problem is solved. And that can be said again about the Commander Sugar Factory.
Okay.
where you have a government that says, I'm doing this factory so that we can create jobs, we can give our city some value, because we will reduce the importation of sugar. For 8 years, you have a government that is just interested in saying that you didn't do a factory. And yet, the people of Ghana continue to be burdened by the importation of sugar, which, you know, affects our city, and then there are no jobs in the area. I'm saying that when we attempt to appear that, oh, well, the MPP is bad, the NDC is bad, in that process, we create a situation where we major in minor, and then minor in major things.
That's your point, but it goes back to what Kweku Kwatin said yesterday, that we need to be honest, you know, generally about what we get wrong and what we get right. But let me just bring in Justice Abdullah. He needs to go. But I just wanted to, we'll digress just a little bit, but I wanted to ask you quickly on this, because you've also filed a lawsuit against the appointment of COP Yohonu as Deputy IGP. What do you seek to achieve from this?
Bella, so you will notice that COP Yohonu has not been appointed as Deputy IG, simpliciter. He has been appointed as a Deputy IG in charge of operations, and that is unknown to the law. There's nothing like a Deputy IG in charge of operations. In the law, in fact, in the Police Service Act, there is no Deputy IG. In the Constitution, there is no Deputy IG. But somehow, a CI was passed, and that position was smuggled in. I do not have problems with the smuggling in of the position of the Deputy IG. But when you appoint a Deputy IG in charge of operations, automatically it leaves a room for further appointment to that office. Automatically. Okay. You are likely to have a Deputy IG in charge of administration, a Deputy IG in charge of finance, a Deputy IG in charge of personnel, a Deputy IG in charge of whatever the appointing authority, in this particular case, the president, could imagine one day. And you are likely to find a multiplicity of Deputy IGs, just as he's doing with his deputy ministers. You may probably end up having about 5 Deputy IGs. And that is the fear that ought to be avoided going forward. Because the law, if we accept that even the CI that's smuggled in this position is acceptable and is all right, what we have to avoid is the creation of further officers, and to insist on the right things being done. And the right thing here is that if you want to appoint a Deputy IG, it has to be simple, straightforward, a Deputy IG simpliciter, not with any additional nomenclature that creates room for further offices to be created within that space of the Deputy IG. This is all I'm trying to do. So if the president will be mindful, if his advisors are watching or reading, and they get in touch with the law, this shouldn't even be coming from me. They would notice that this is a big goof, and this ought to be stopped immediately. So that if they, in their bid to appoint a Deputy IG, they can simply appoint one, and simple, we all move on with life, pretending that is also even acceptable. Okay. Because I don't really have an issue with that. A Deputy IG.
What if, quickly, what if the ruling doesn't go in your favor? What next?
Luckily for us, our laws are quite wide in allowing for a review. If a review still fails, unfortunately, now these are the two options. Whatever happens would strengthen what we need to do in that office. It will open the doors for us to know at least the jurisprudence in that area. Okay. For 2 things. We will know whether or not going forward we can have a Deputy IG who would be in charge of some other portfolio that is created by the president, because it's a creation by the president. There's no creation by law. And so whatever jurisprudence will come out of this would guide all of us going forward. And indeed, the police service will be the biggest beneficiary, whichever way it goes. So it's really not about winning or losing. It's about straightening the laws regarding the appointment to that office to avoid future complications.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Justice Abdullah is a law lecturer at UPSA. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. I believe...
It's a light-hearted question. I mean, if you have a friend abroad and then you want Apple products and you call your friend to buy you an Apple Watch and then the Apple phone, Sorry, I'm advertising Apple. And then you send
Samsung.
Yes. and then you send money, and you send money for the person because he gives you the. Then he sends you the phone and say, oh, but I received the phone, but I needed it to come with the Apple Watch, and he says, oh, I mailed them separately. Will you blame yourself that you got only the phone when you did before the Apple Watch came?
Okay.
Will you blame yourself?
So you're asking me to respond to that?
Yes, I'm just asking. Will you blame yourself?
Will
you blame yourself that the Apple phone came before the Apple Watch? I mean, so this case of you should accept blame because the ambulance came without the equipment. When you asked for it later and they were bringing it, it doesn't.
You don't think it washes? Okay.
It doesn't wash. But the ruling says otherwise.
Okay.
The ruling says otherwise. The ruling says when the ambulances got here, a team from the Silver Star Auto, one Frederick, was made to go and assess he said it was not fit for purpose.
Exactly.
In fact, in other words, the buses were not meant for ambulances.
Okay.
No, it was not fit for purpose because it did not have the.
On the line for a while, gentlemen. Let's just bring Nana Bampuado in just quickly. She's a former gender minister under the SWAL NDC, and we brought her into this conversation especially because there was some good news yesterday, especially for women across the country. After many years of fighting to have the Affirmative Action Bill passed on the floor of Parliament, that actually happened yesterday. And it was unanimous. In fact, the House passed it. And it's the Affirmative Action Gender Equity Bill 2024. It's been in and out of Parliament, like I said, for several years. Now, Ebampo, I'm told you're not in town, but you must be celebrating at this point. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's historic. I'm so happy, and I congratulate Parliament of Ghana and the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection, led by the Minister, for this historic feat. At long last, after 12 years, since President John Evans Atta Mills inaugurated the committee, the Working Group on Affirmative Action in 2012, 12 years later, we now have Parliament passing the Affirmative Action Gender Equality Bill 2024. Congratulations to Ghana.
Certainly, and to you as well for being one of the main people who pushed for this to happen. But the question then is, what does it seek to achieve for those who may not necessarily understand why this needed to be passed into law?
Broadly, it seeks to achieve gender equality in conformity with our 1992 Constitution. When you read the Constitution, when you read the report of the Committee of Experts, way back in that time, we realized that in the political sphere, social, educational, and cultural sphere, there is an imbalance. So we do not have adequate representation of women. And so to propel women into certain key positions, there was a need to deliberately come with a law that would enable that, or an affirmative action intervention, just like what President Kwame Nkrumah did at independence, when first he introduced affirmative action in respect of education for the northern regions of Ghana, and then also passed the law on affirmative action for appointment of 10 women into the Parliament of Ghana. So likewise, we all agreed, civil society, women groups, and government all agreed that to propel women into key positions in Ghana, there was a need to pass an affirmative action law. And we've been agitating for this. And President Mills set up the working committee. And then when President Mahama came into power, we came up with a bill. It went to cabinet, it was approved, it went to Parliament, went through first reading, and we lost power in 2016, so it lapsed. And I'm happy that today, on the last day of July, the Affirmative Action Bill has finally been passed by Parliament.
I do know that the former president had indicated during one of his campaigns that he was going to ensure that it is passed into law so he can assent to it if he comes into power. But now it's already been done. How soon do you expect the president to assent to this?
We're hoping he assents to this next week as soon as possible. And I must say that I've read through the drafts, and it's a very strong piece. I mean, it's a very strong law that would help is outlined functions for independent constitutional bodies, is outlined functions for the private sector. For the private sector, for instance, if you employ more women, you'll be given some tax incentives. Public service, they are under an obligation to ensure representation of women. In the first schedule to the law, it sets out a target. So for the first 2 years up to 2026, 30% minimum representation of women. The next 2 years to 2028 is 35%. And then by 2030, we are looking at 50% representation of women across public sector, across security services, across the judiciary. And what I like about this act is how every single institution has been given its functions, its role, and what it's supposed to do. And there are also the Gender Equality Committee, headed by the Minister of Gender, is to be established, and that would help to ensure compliance and also to monitor this process. So it is a groundbreaking law that will make a lot of difference for women and also for progressive democracy in Ghana. We should all embrace it.
I know we have to go, but just one last question. Just about 3 weeks ago, the former minority leader, Honorable Haruna Idrisu, had described this law as a bad law in quote. And his concern was that we were always comparing what was happening in Ghana to what was happening in the likes of Rwanda, Eritrea, or Uganda. So I'll quote what he says. So he says that sometimes you wonder if we read what we bring to Parliament. Bad law, yes. Ghana needs an affirmative action law, but you're comparing to Ghana to Rwanda or to Uganda. He says, have you gone there to see how their constitution and their laws have worked for them? In Rwanda and Uganda, there's representation of women based on appointment. Ghana, you say competitive selection. The women, or competitive election, the women are too shy to do competitive elections. What's your response to that?
He was speaking, Honorable Haruna Idrisu was speaking in context with respect to the political systems that are run in our different countries. So in Rwanda, they have the, we have the first past the post system, and they generally have the proportion, the proportion system where they have automatic affirmative action. So he was referring to the fact that there are two separate political systems. But if you read his statement, he then went to embrace introduction of the Affirmative Action Act, and also even gave recommendations on what can be done to increase representation of women. I think my disappointment, I'm still reading through because I hear it will be updated, is I didn't see a specific clause or provision on reserved seats for women. When I read the part on Parliament, I would have really wished that as a function of the legislature, there would have been a clause in the bill for reserved seats for women in Parliament. What I see is about committees of Parliament, representation of women in committees of Parliament, and also in the leadership. But it would have been great to see reserved seats for women in Parliament. And the good thing about this is also, they also speak to political parties and how they should also encourage adequate representation of women. So congratulations to Parliament. Ghana wins. We are really very excited about this.
Definitely, Ghana wins. Thank you so much for speaking to us, and do enjoy the rest of your day. We've been speaking to Nana Oyebampo Addo, and she's been very instrumental in ensuring that this is also passed on the floor of Parliament, as she served as Gender Minister in the erstwhile NDC government. I cannot come to you, gentlemen, so please forgive me. Our time is up, I know. We have to go. But good morning, Mr. Kojo Chumbuafo. He's also saying good morning to you, Alaji Suini. And as for Facebook, it's replete with messages for Solomon. They are all hailing you. They're actually enjoying your comments. But thank you all so much for joining us also on Facebook. Time, again, I cannot read your messages, forgive me. But we'll continue this affirmative action bill conversation on the big issues tomorrow, so look forward to it, especially because we'll have the women join us. But just a reminder for you to step into the world of Dewa 539 for your chance to win big with Dewa Direct and Dewa Chop Money. With Dewa Direct, dial *446#, pick 1 to 39 and win 20 times, 40 times, or 400 times your stake. And win cash every evening at 7 p.m. and on Sundays at 6 p.m. Early birds love Dewa Chop Money. So at 10 a.m., dial *446#, choose 1 to 39 and win 20 times, 40 times, or 400 times your stake. Play at dewa-nla.com or dial *446# hash, star 446 hash, or call them on 055-625-9249 or 053-2479-879. Dewa Afa. Remember to also play cash out. It's important that you win 1,000 Ghana cedis this morning. Star 439 hash, select option 2. Papa Ro is coming to us from Mankesim Ansa Bus Station. That's in Infantiman constituency. And so please tune in and make sure you stay with us till the end of the show, because Community Manifesto will be coming away with Roland Walker. We have to go now. We'll be back with more.
Listen, more money promo. What's up? You 1 million.
Baba 1 million.
Nana, then a mayor menyesika bebre. Nana, champagne.
Usum de sanka pito nation.
I don't tell me that they get how come for. How tell me?
Fino, tell us some more money. Tomo, open a 1 million Ghana cedi.
Everyone is trying to win millions in the Telecel More Money promo. Win daily and weekly when you reload your mobile and broadband bundles. You can win up to 30,000 Ghana cedis weekly or the 1 million Ghana cedi grand prize. The more you reload, the better your chances of winning in Telecel More Money promo.
Dial star 500 hash or opt in on the Telecel Play app for free.
1 million.
Telecel, connecting energies. This promo is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas Lottery platform.
Now is an opportune moment for investors to consider the remarkable investment opportunity presented by the Floria Residence, the pinnacle of luxury living in Cantonment. Offering a range of options from executive studios to lavish penthouses, including 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom apartments. Amenities and services includes round-the-clock security services, dedicated play areas, a bustling commercial zone, state-of-the-art fitness facilities and gym, a well-appointed conference room, an elegant rooftop sky bar, and a breathtaking rooftop infinity swimming pool. Additionally, residents benefit from the convenience of a secured 3-floor underground car park, while those residing in the ocean view penthouses enjoy unparalleled vistas, located opposite the Laboni Palace Mall, Accra. Contact us on 0595700008.
Good afternoon, Auntie.
After darling.
1 chilled bottle of nail orange, please.